Hello, everyone, and welcome back to All Things Star Wars, the greatest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy. I'm Mr. Jason Roskam. With me here live via satellite, the Darth Vader to my Palpatine, Dave Martin. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Jason.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Ooh, man. As the title says, I am dealing with COVID-19, and we're going to get all into the details of this throughout the rest of the podcast. But first, what do you got for us today? We got some other stuff to talk about. Big stuff.
There is big stuff. This is going to be an episode of all kinds of hugeness.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to bring up. I have to get used to managing the screen space.
Yeah,
being back in remote status. So
yeah, we're not live due to pandemic, coronavirus reasons. So Dave is doing this remotely. Bear with us.
Yeah. So we, as in the Dave and Jason, or Dave and Mr. Roskam, however you want to put it, we have been. We've been excited to talk about, as of 1 July, our affiliation with Podbelly has finally bore some fruit.
That's right. Or
has borne some hot sauce.
Yes, it has. Of the El Yucateco kind.
Yes.
To be exact.
Through our friends, through our affiliation with Podbelly.com, we are now proudly sponsored by El Yucateco hot sauce, the #1 habanero sauce in the United States.
That's right.
There's all kinds of like so we're gonna talk about the talking points of hot sauce, because I can't really go as much off the cuff with the Podbelly thing, because now there's actually legitimate things to read.
Yes.
So then I have to actually read some shit about El Yucateco. Ironically enough, this is El Yucateco. Our friends over at the Sofa King podcast, those guys have had a sponsorship with El Yucateco for a long time. So
yeah,
I've heard the brand name through those guys, and it's not something that's just in the Bakersfield, California area. We're talking about something that is now, it ranks in the top 10 of all the hot sauces in the United States, and you can get it. You can get it pretty much anywhere.
Yeah,
I think hot sauces are sold. You can go to shopelucateco.com. Probably should put that in show notes or something. Unless I'm going to spell that out. But if you go into Google Smart and feel like, hey, we want to get to the best hot sauce, so we're going to put in El Yucateco, and then boom, and it'll bring you in there. But I'm going to read a lot of things.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, in addition to going online, I know you can get it directly from their website, from Amazon.com. You can even find them in most Walmarts nowadays.
Yes. That is, in fact, where I've seen it. And so I'm going to read that sauces are made from the whole fruit of the pepper. They're non-vinegar based. We do not use the capsaicin extract. So you know what that means? It means it's delicious. That's what that means. And also talking about delicious, we focus on talking about flavor, not heat. So it can be spicy without doing damage, which is nice.
Bottom line
is about flavor. Hashtag we are the king of flavor.
Flavor.
Currently, El Yucateco has 5 habanero-based sauces: red, green, Caribbean, Black Label Reserve, triple hot, extra hot, kublik. We also have a jalapeno hot sauce and a chipotle hot sauce. Jason, what did you have there? Which one did you have?
Right in my hand, I have the chili habanero, which is the green sauce. I actually had this today. Put it in my eggs that I had this morning. So
excellent.
When I am not suffering from the coronavirus and I'm working out and I'm trying to eat a lot of protein, I eat a lot of eggs, and I'll make these egg wraps. And obviously eggs go great with hot sauce. So I've been using this El Yucateco, this chili habanero hot sauce. I've been actually mixing it in with the eggs as I'm preparing them, and not just dribbling it on top, because this shit is pretty spicy. The chili habanero, it tastes amazing, but it's got a kick. But if you mix it in with the eggs as you're preparing them, just makes it just perfect. Not too much spice. Amazing taste. Chili habanero, El Yucateco. It's good shit.
It was good shit. I think we can't say it any better. And we are not selling our soul for this, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I talk about Podbelly this long anyway, but you can still go to podbelly.com for all your podcasting needs. And that's it.
Okay.
And I'm already out of breath. God damn it.
Yeah, you're out of breath. Okay, so well, I got to do this, and we'll see how much breath I have when I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
But a big shout out to all of our patrons: Tony Ferrari, Camille Donovan, Nick Jackson, Frederick Martin, Big Lovin, Scott Rasmussen, Tactical Swede, Don Solsky, Shotgun Mark, Avery Morgan, Lunar Girl, and Dragon Buddy, and our newest patron, Vickers. So Dave's talked about him a lot on the show, co-worker of Dave's. Vickers, thank you so much for your contribution. You are the reason why we do this.
AKA Dutch.
But he put Vickers in Patreon, so thank you, Vickers. And that's all I got to say about that.
I have to figure out how to get the shit. So part of the issues we have with being remote is that I like to interact in the chat. If I'm looking at the YouTube stream, it is on such a severe delay that I can't function. So I'm still working on it.
Well, while you're working on that, we actually have some Star Wars news to talk about. So
shit.
Before we get into the rest of the episode, which is going to have absolutely nothing to do with Star Wars, let's talk some Star Wars. We've got some book news mostly. So one of the things that they announced was over the last few days, we are getting some novelizations of The Mandalorian, getting a whole slew of novels from like junior novels, kids novels, and then an actual adult novel. No idea what it's about. Don't know if it's a novelization of the first season. Very few details, except for the fact that they are now opening up to Mandalorian-based books for Star Wars. So whatever that means, I think they're starting this fall, but this is direct from StarWars.com, the only place where you're going to get official Star Wars news, by the way.
That's right.
The clickbait this week. Oh my God, it was the worst.
Well, so I think we should talk about the clickbait just for a minute, right? Because of the outlandishness of it, the absolute outlandishness of, we spoke about it briefly off air.
Yeah.
But the fact that people would actually buy into that Disney would shit can the fucking sequel trilogy to do something else.
If you ever believed that, if you saw that headline or saw a YouTube video that was touting this headline and you actually believed it for a fucking second, first of all, you're a moron. Second of all, you're a retard. Third of all, don't listen to our podcast. Yeah, this podcast is not for you if you believe that.
It reeks so badly of clickbait that it's remarkable that it got any traction whatsoever. Because honestly, look, informed Star Wars people, you can just ignore it. You can just ignore it. They put this stupid shit out. Be like, yeah, whatever. It's not even worth that. That's so ridiculous. Not even worth talking about. But no, it still manages to get talked about, and people want it to be true, and because there's such strong feelings towards how they dislike the sequel trilogy, so it's one of those things that they want to be true, just like we want the fucking original trilogy to come out in its theatrical cut. It's never going to happen. Like, we want it badly.
I'm still holding out hope, damn it.
But to go to the extreme that said that this movie, these $1 billion franchise, that they would do something so drastic to even if somebody at Disney even floated that idea out there, it would get shot down. Because then you would be admitting, that they think it's an inferior product that they're still making money off of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's face it, they can't afford right now. Disney can't afford to go and say, oh, you know what? I know we got Disney Plus going and everything else, but like, we're going to negate all this money we just spent and earned on the sequel trilogy and kind of start fresh with something else. Like what? The Poe Dameron fucking trilogy? The fucking purple hair bitch trilogy? What the fuck? What exactly are you going to do? And where was this fucking outrage? Where was this outrage when Force Awakens came out. I mean, there were detractors. There were people that were upset with like the Finn character, the Rey arc, the Mary Sue bullshit, and everything else. But now we somehow managed to get to this point where people are shit can the whole sequel trilogy. Like it's so stupid. It's so stupid to think that, put that energy, put that mentality into something that actually makes a difference.
Yeah. And like what killed me about it is, when I saw the headlines, I immediately blew it off because it was from the usuals, the WeGotThisCovered.com, the CosmicBookNews.com. If you see a headline from any of these fucking websites, they're bullshit right from the start.
Yep.
And I blew them off. I'm like, oh my God, this is like the dumbest yet. Didn't give it any thought until I started seeing some YouTubers I actually follow, people I actually enjoy some of their content, picking up this fucking headline and being like, oh my God, Disney should get in the sequel trilogy. And I'm like, are you that dumb? Or are you that desperate for content? I don't understand. I don't understand why you would give this even a modicum of thought when you know it's bullshit. You fucking know it's bullshit.
I don't. Maybe it's that mentality of like, if we don't mention it, then and something does come of it, then we don't want to be the last to the party.
I guess
people just say something about it just in the off chance it might be right.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people built their brand on hating on the sequel trilogy. Like so many YouTubers, so many websites, they all built this fucking empire based off of just this hatred of these movies. And I mean, I guess if that's what gets them clicks, if that what gets them views, good on you, I guess.
But maybe they think they're embracing the dark side, but you're not. You're just a fucking tool.
Yeah. Go fuck yourself.
And don't besmirch the fucking dark side in that way.
Exactly. So we actually had another piece of news that's also book related. So as you remember, we had the Dooku Jedi Lost book last year. Fairly good. It was decent. I think it gave us a little bit of extra canon, gave us some backstory that was pretty cool to have filled in.
Gave us something to listen to.
Yes, give us something to listen to because it was an audio only thing. Well, they're doing it again. This time they're focusing on Dr. Aphra. Don't know much about the subject of this. I don't know if they're going to retell a lot of her story from the comics or what, because we were introduced to Dr. Aphra in the Marvel comics, first in the Vader series, then she got her own series. She was never a character that I really gravitated towards. I didn't dislike her, but also nothing about her really grabbed me. But I know a lot of people do enjoy her character, but they're doing this audiobook in like the dramatization where they have actors doing different voices and everything, much like the Dooku Jedi Lost.
Yeah, and they actually have voices. They've announced at the same time that that was coming out, they announced who was doing Doc Aphra and who was doing 000.
Yep.
This is one of those characters where I think they build it up. It was good comic book character. I don't know how it's going to flesh itself out in like actual like working novelizations and things like that. Mm-hmm. Because there was some the comics bring some extremes to a character, right? So it's 000 and what the hell is it?
BT,
something like that.
Yeah.
So over the top with their fucking hatred of human beings and wanting to torture and kill and everything else.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? That's cool. And it worked in the comic. I don't know how far it'll get into actual canon, but I think also from novelizations that you had, oh shit, I can't think of its name. It was the killer fucking battle droid.
Oh, Mr. Bones?
Mr. Bones. You had a character like Mr. Bones. It was kind of the same way. It's like that extreme, character or extreme characterization of a fucking droid. So,
which I thought was pretty entertaining, like Mr. Bones especially.
Yeah, I think this will be something that I will listen to. I think it'd be worth listening to for sure.
Yeah. I've got like a dozen Audible credits at this point, so I know for sure I'm going to be getting this. And it comes out July 21st, so only a couple weeks from now, from the time of this recording.
There was a. I'm messing with my volume. Apparently, I leaned on it, and all of a sudden, it's like the fucking Death Star getting ready to go up.
Nice.
What was I going to say? Fuck! I distracted myself.
Well, While you're trying to remember, one plug I do want to give is Mark Thompson, our favorite narrator for Star Wars audiobooks, is doing the voice of Darth Vader in the Afra novel, which is
nice.
a pretty, I mean, aside from Afra herself, probably the most important character in her story because we're introduced to her through him.
Mm-hmm.
So, good old Mark Thompson's back, baby.
Not that he ever went anywhere. I mean,
indeed.
No, you know what I was going to talk about? There was on Twitter today, there was another book announcement. One of the female writers, Amy Radcliffe, I think it was, had announced on Twitter that there's a new, it's basically a book about like spiritualization through the Force. It's kind of like, it's got a picture of Yoda on the cover. You can imagine like if you were going to use the Force and use the tenets of the good guys, they're good guys, not our good guys, right? But if you're talking about gaining peacefulness and the Force and everything else, so she wrote this book, and that's, I think, coming out November 10th. I just happened to see that on Twitter before we logged in today.
Okay, well, more to follow on that. And Bronco Fett said in the chat, as long as Mark Thompson doesn't do the voice of Chewbacca. Oh my god.
He's had time to develop that,
that was brutal.
It makes you wonder if Mark Thompson had did Chewbacca in Vector Prime, how that would have went.
Ooh. the last gasp. But we digress. So no other real Star Wars news beyond that, and we don't have a Star Wars main topic. So if you're only here for the Star Wars content, now's as good a time as any to punch out. But we know that you're all here for the usual Dave and Jason shenanigans, and talking about our weeks and everything else. And moving right along into that, like I said, the title of the episode pretty much says it all. And so, you're going to have a bad week. You're going to have a bad week when it starts off by finding a tick on the tip of your penis.
Shut the fuck up.
That is when you know that your week is off to a terrible start. When you go to take a piss and you look down and you see a big black spot and you're like, that's not normal. Either I picked something up, or that's a tick on the head of my dick. Yeah. That's how my week started. And then I got the coronavirus. So, where to begin? So the tick story. I don't remember if I actually mentioned this on the show, but one of the things that I wanted to do when my dad came out to visit
you did.
Was go to this old abandoned World War I village that's in the fucking woods of New Jersey. And we did that. We did that one of the first days that my dad was here. A lot of ticks out there, apparently. A lot of ticks. Kristen was picking a bunch of them off of her as we were driving home. Fucking found a couple on the kids, found a couple on myself. And then it was later that night, like way later. No, it might have been the next fucking day. Go to take a piss, look down, fucking tick has already started to embed itself in the head of my cock. Yeah. So that was fucking great.
Oh my God, Jason. That's...
Yeah.
COVID-19 is not enough. You need
no, this is before I caught COVID.
I am speechless. I can't even.
Yeah, but I mean, tell me that's not the worst of fucking bad omens.
But that's one of those where you say it can't get any worse.
Yeah, right. Yeah, until. So it started off, towards the end of my father's visit. Woke up one morning, sore throat. I know my own body, and whenever I get a viral infection, sore throat is always the first signs. Didn't think much of it because we've been, for the most part, following the fucking rules. We've been social distancing. We've been wearing masks in public. I've been teleworking. I have a suspicion where I actually got the fucking virus, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to kind of talk about what the hell happened. So started off with the sore throat, like, okay, this could be nothing. Yes, the coronavirus is going on, but this is the way I feel every time I get a cold. Next day.
And you are good for like one summer cold too.
Yeah.
For as long as I know you're good for at least one of those.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that out of the ordinary.
Yeah. Next day, still have the sore throat. Then I start feeling feverish as the day goes on. It's like, well, fuck, I'm definitely sick. But again, in the beginnings, it was nothing beyond a normal cold. Couple days into it, all right, sore throat is still sore. I had taken some Tylenol, some NyQuil to kind of make the fever go down. And I was just starting to feel just like, just, real blah, when you get sick, you're just like, I just feel like crap, like just general like crap. About the third or fourth day into it was when I started getting all over body aches, like my joints, my muscles, everything just generally ached. It was not like a sharp pain. It was just like a general all over dull pain. In addition to that, the thing that was really jumping out at me was this lack of energy that I had. And I'm like, God, man, whatever this virus is, I'm like, I guess it could be coronavirus. And I think it was like the second day. I'm like, let me just go to this free fucking testing site and just do the fucking nose swab and just rule out COVID or rule in COVID or whatnot. Days went by, I didn't get results. And as the days are going by, these body aches are getting worse. And this general fatigue is getting worse to the point where on like day 4, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't fucking move. I couldn't focus. I couldn't sit up in a fucking chair without feeling exhausted. I think there was one point where I literally was trying to sit at my computer desk and I'm sitting there and I realized, what's going on? Oh, that's right. I'm slumped over and my eyes are closed, realizing that I'm just sitting there just like with my head down at my desk, barely being able to keep upright. So this is the point where I'm like, I have COVID. Like, there is no fucking way this isn't COVID. Day 5, start getting chest pains. That's when I fucking knew, even though I still didn't have my goddamn test results. And they said 2 to 5 days, I think. And like we were coming on like 4 days after I'd gotten the test and still no results. But I'm like, I've got to have COVID. Like, no fucking way this isn't. Kristen was starting to feel the same way. She had her symptoms were a lot less than mine, and I'm going to get into that here in a little bit. By like day 5, I think it was, this was the point where my condition kept getting worse and worse to the point where, like, I know we bullshit a lot on this podcast. I know we exaggerate a lot of things. We over amplify things, but I shit you not. I think this was Wednesday night of last week. I literally thought I was going to die. My condition had gotten so poor that I'm sitting there laying in bed. I can't fucking move. I hurt all over. My chest is fucking pounding. It hurt. Like, I could tell there was something wrong in my lungs. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, if I get any worse than I am right now, I'm going to fucking die. I'm talking to my oldest son, Rob, and I'm legitimately saying to him, look, dude, if something happens to me, you need to take care of your brothers. I'm like starting to give him instructions, like what to do if I fucking die. I never felt like this in my life. The level of absolute fatigue to where I had no energy to do anything. It took everything that I fucking had to sit up in bed sometimes. It took, like, I had to focus. I had to sit there and be like, okay, I really need to just like get up all this energy that I can to fucking lift my arm up, grab my nightstand and pull myself up. It was bad. I don't even know how to describe it beyond that. Just all over body and joint pains, no fucking energy whatsoever. And thankfully, like, my breathing was okay the whole time. Yes, my chest hurt. I could tell I had a ton of congestion in my lungs, but I never felt like I couldn't take a breath. It's just the breaths were tight, and it just, I could feel like something was wrong in my lungs, but I never felt like I couldn't breathe. Thank God, because I almost got to that point where I took myself to the ER, where I'm like, if at any point I feel like I have any difficulty breathing whatsoever, I'm going to the ER. Like I texted you, I think it
Yep.
was last Thursday night. Like, dude, I'm seriously thinking about taking myself to the ER. What do you think?
Yeah. Taking yourself too, like I don't recommend that at all.
Well, I mean, Kristen was sick too, and you know, spoiler alert, her results came back positive as well for COVID.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, it wasn't until Friday morning that I finally got the fucking results. 6 days after I took the goddamn test. Oh, and they sent me an email in the middle of the week, by the way, like, oh yeah, sorry, we're having delays in the testing process. Yeah, no shit. Fuck. But yeah, Friday morning got confirmation, and I immediately went to urgent care. Went through this whole fucking shit show at the urgent care here. I'm never going to that fucking urgent care again. Come to find out, I do have a minor pneumonia, and yeah, just I have COVID. That's basically what came out of all of this. And thanks to the doctor who prescribed me fucking antacids to help with my COVID. That's really going to do the trick there, guy.
Yeah, there's before we went live and you're talking about the whole bullshit with the urgent care. It's one of those things where if you're even when you're communicating with the like for us for the military, right? Even with me still with the VA, you call a nurse's line, right? And you call the nurse's line and they say, okay, this is what you should go do. You know, you should go get tested. I'm like, okay, cool. So you do that, and then they're like, okay, well, you know, you go get tested and you're going to hang out. Like, unless the way it was described to me is like, unless your condition gets worse than it is like right now, then, you know, don't bother calling us again. Just go to an urgent care or go to the ER, which honestly, sidebarring on that, urgent cares in and of themselves are fucking great ideas. Okay.
Oh, I like the concept. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets you an opportunity to like see a doctor without having to go through the like basically bogging down an emergency room process where unless like I think the only time I ever was in an ER where I got seen right away, well, there was 2 times. One of them was because fucking my dad drove me in a fucking unmarked police car and pulled into the fucking ambulance area and fucking they took me in because I put a stick through my fucking neck. Yeesh. Just missed my fucking jugular. Yeah, that was fun. And the other time was I drove myself to the fucking Kennedy over here, which is it's not Kennedy anymore. It's whatever it is. And I drove up and it was like, hey, I'm having heart attack symptoms. And they're like, oh, you're going to go have a seat into this room.
Yeah.
But aside from like, you know, doctors don't like urgent cares. Okay, great. But it's still resource limited. You know what I mean? Sure. Like you go to the right urgent care that has like the ability to do x-rays and shit like that, which is where you went after this was all fucking done. Like you had to go through all this and get to a point where it's like, okay, you get to a point where I can't, if the next threshold gets met, then that's it. Emergency room's next, right? That's do not pass go. You're fucking calling a paramedic and, you know, getting taken care of that way. And it's frustrating for people that may be symptomatic that are worried that if they go into the hospital, like that's where all the sick people are.
Yeah. So,
and then what are they going to do? Like, what are they actually going to do to like make me better? Like there was a point in this, like, and it was in the video that you had shared that said, okay, by day, whatever.
Yeah, by day, whatever, it was either you're going to start getting better or you're going to get hospitalized.
Anyway, did you hear me have to go let the dog out?
I did hear you kind of like... click, click, yeah. Click. So hopefully truncated silence gets most of that.
Yeah, hopefully. IVOG. This is their best podcast. If they skip Dave's week, it would be #1 for sure. Nice. Dick.
Oh God! Oh, you can't make me laugh that hard.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
it hurts to live. Oh God. Anyway, was that it for your
Yeah,
sidebar? I guess.
it was just a matter of like, I don't know. Urgent cares are good. You have to get the right one though, I guess. And
Yeah.
you have to get somebody that, like, when you walk in someplace and said, like, I don't think you mentioned it here, but you're saying like, hey, right out the gate, like, okay, I've tested positive for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
You tell 4 people in the building that, and yet they still walk in the room and ask you questions like, what are you here for? I don't know, what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
motherfucker. Like,
You would think when I walk in and I tell the receptionist, I have a positive test for COVID. I have COVID right now. You'd think she'd fucking alert the rest of the building. But every other person I talk to after that is, oh, really? You have a positive test? You have COVID? Like, yes, motherfucker.
sit
That's
over
why.
here and don't interact with anybody else in here, because that's,
Yeah.
we want to isolate you. No,
Yeah.
I think there's. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
Um,
by the time I actually got my positive test last Friday, I that was about the worst that I felt. Starting on Saturday, I started seeing the other side of it. So I started feeling better. The body ache started to go away. The fatigue finally started to reside, which, again, when I was at my worst, the biggest symptom I had and the most surprising aspect of all of this was the incredible fatigue. Like, I cannot stress that enough. Like, how just little energy I had. It's nothing like I've ever felt in my life. We've been through the military. I've been through basic training where they run your ass to the ground all day, every day for 6 weeks. Never felt tired like that ever in my life. It was so debilitating. It was shocking how debilitating it was. But now that I'm kind of on the other side of it and I'm sort of on the mend, despite the fact that I actually have pneumonia right now, I have some weird after effects, and some of these things are things that are probably going to last for weeks, apparently, if not months. The biggest thing, another surprising part of this, is how short of breath I get doing any activity at all. Getting up and walking to my kitchen this morning to go get coffee. By the time I got to my kitchen, I had to fucking lean on the counter because I was already exhausted. I was already out of breath because this respiratory infection, it fucks your lungs. Like, you are completely fucked for a long time after this. There's talk of permanent lung damage for some people who get this. And I fucking believe it now, because just sitting here talking for the half hour we've been doing this already, I'm out of breath. Like, I feel fucking spent right now. And I could feel it in my fucking chest. Like, I feel how my lungs are working fucking overtime right now just to keep me satiated with oxygen and everything. Mm-hmm. It's fucking wild. Something else, I've completely lost my sense of smell. I cannot smell a thing. And it's fucking weird. Kristen has completely lost her sense of taste and smell. So not only can she not smell anything, she can't fucking taste anything. And these are also effects that are potentially going to last for weeks, if not months after this. So, like, even though I'm kind of on the upswing, these after effects are fucking just debilitating, and it's just the losing my breath and the not having a lot of energy to do things even now is just, it fucking sucks, man. This virus, guys, is no fucking joke. I remember the first time we talked about this on the podcast. This is probably back in like February, when we were first talking about, oh yeah, this virus that's going on over in China right now. There's word of it possibly making its way to the US. We even said, oh, it's just, it's another strain of the flu. We said that here on this fucking podcast.
Yeah.
No, this is far worse than that.
And here's the biggest takeaway too, is like, if you're watching this podcast and you've listened to it for any length of time, that Jason's he's a workout guy. Like, Jason's somebody whose cardio level was good. Yeah. His fitness level, his eating, doing the right things. Like, so you're taking a healthy person in their mid 40s and giving them this virus, and it taking him to his knees.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so,
to the point where I literally thought I was going to die.
And so if you have immunocompromised people, or people that are at a higher risk, that don't have that same cardio level, that don't have the just this same, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how fit you are or anything else, because one person's experience is going to be completely different. But like, you're taking somebody who's limited all their access to people as much as they possibly could, right?
Yep.
Even stores. When's the last time you were in a store, Jason?
I couldn't even tell you, honestly. I think I went to Walmart like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I've been in nothing but a Lowe's or a Home Depot, and even then, like, very, very limited. Like, I haven't been in any other store other than that. So it's you're taking something that we didn't look. I think we fell into the same kind of thing as everybody else. Like, I know both of us were like, this is, people should, wearing a mask is one of those things. Like, but even for us, as I sit here, we're doing this remotely right now because the reality is I was potentially exposed to the virus, because even though you weren't showing the symptoms yet, when we taped the last podcast, there was overlap there. So now I've been in quarantine, and I'm awaiting to get my test, which hopefully will be negative, because I obviously, if I was sick like Jason was, we'd be all over it. But Jason, this is his experience. Physically, I have issues every fucking week. So whatever.
Right? That's a weekly segment on the All Things Star Wars podcast. What's wrong with Dave this week?
Yeah, what's wrong with Dave? And then Jason had to trump. He had to go up there and say, like, no, there's no way.
Yeah, I want it to be about me once.
No way I'm gonna beat Dave, who from Cape Coral, Florida, is calling me right now. Motherfucker, I'm so sick of getting advertising shit for fucking politicians. But anyway.
So to kind of conclude this discussion, there were a couple things I wanted to bring up. First of all, Kristen. So I mentioned she got it too. Her symptoms started pretty much the same day as mine. But throughout this whole experience, she never got nearly as bad as I did. All of her symptoms were pretty minor compared to mine, with the exception of losing her sense of taste and smell. One of the reasons that we attribute to that is, as soon as all this COVID shit started back in February, March timeframe, she like freaked out. Like, she was one of these like super paranoid people. Like, if I get this, it's going to fucking kill me. She was going a little off the deep end. And one of the things she did was she read that taking vitamin D could potentially reduce the symptoms and everything else if you do get COVID. So for like 2 months now, she's been taking daily vitamin D tablets. And sure as fucking shit, we both get the virus at the exact same time. Fucking kicks the shit out of me, and it was just an inconvenience for her. So hey, she was probably onto something at this point.
Yeah, and honestly, because vitamin D is one of those vitamins, as we get older and get away from basically drinking milk, getting vitamin D, it's something that we need to supplement as we get older, and I have had it. It's on my list of fucking prescribed medications is vitamin D. Yeah. So hey, maybe that'll work out. Maybe that works out for me in the end too.
Hopefully, hopefully you don't get it at all. But yeah, if you do,
right. And honestly, let's not belabor the point here. Like, it doesn't matter how careful you are. Like, this thing is so prolific, and it's so transmutable that anything that you can do, any simple thing. This is why wearing the mask is kind of a big hot button thing. Jason and I, this is kind of where I was going before I got distracted. But Jason and I, we thought the worst was over, right? Let's go back in the studio. We both live in our little bubbles, so we should be good. Yeah. And we'll see. We'll see what happens with my test results. Obviously, I didn't get as sick as Jason. I haven't been around him since we taped last.
Yeah.
So if I was going to get it, I would have already had gotten it. Maybe, I don't know. It's who the fuck knows.
Yeah.
And the doctor sure shit don't know, because every time you talk to them, they're like, okay, well, we're gonna call you tomorrow to make sure you're still alive. Basically,
Right. Yeah.
Doctors say. Excuse me.
So,
but basic things like wearing a mask, washing your fucking hands, doing shit like that across the country, across the world, these are still simple things to make sure that you or you don't get sick or your loved one doesn't get sick. And it's honestly, I know there's people that are in the chat right now that have strong feelings about this one way or the other. And I'm here to tell you that for me, if I end up getting this, it's because of doing a podcast with Jason. And we're two people that were isolated as much as we could possibly be. Yep. And still managed to get it. This is one of those things that it is just around the corner for everybody. And we just hope that when you do get it, because I feel like at some point it's going to touch everybody's lives. It's going. If you don't know somebody that has gotten it, you will. There's going to be a point where it's not something you just see on the news or fucking, it's going to get to a point where like you're going to know somebody that's going to affect like severely, where you're going to look at it and go like, fuck, that's one step away from being me.
Yeah. So, and I know we have some people in the chat who are not big fans of the masks, and hey, I get it. Right. You kind of take a step away, and I kind of understand where you're coming from and everything. I get it. I'm not criticizing, but not fucking worth it. Take it from me, from someone who's currently living through this fucking thing. Not worth the freedom of not wearing a mask. Trust me, it's not fucking worth it.
And look, this is like what's funny or it can be considered funny. Like we had took a planned break. I don't know whether we told everybody this in our last episode. We're like, all right, after we tape this episode, we're not going to tape again until July 6th because Jason's dad going away and blah, 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 blah. There's all these factors. Like, so it just so happens that Jason, from the last time we fucking taped to now, has managed to get COVID and start climbing out of the other side of it.
Right. Which, I mean, obviously we also had a plan, though. As part of that break, we were supposed to read Vector Prime, which, by the way, had one of those great moments with Dave when, we're talking a couple of days like, fuck, I think I'm finally starting to get a little bit better. You mentioned, you think you might be able to record Monday? Potentially, yeah. And then I had this whole moment that you see the memes all over the place where it's like the guy just got hit by a bus. He's like fucking on the floor and you're still coming to work, right? And I had this moment with Dave. He's like, so did you get a chance to read Vector Prime? I'm like, no, I didn't get a chance to read Vector Prime. My symptoms started the day after we recorded last. I've been a fucking wreck ever since then. So no, I didn't read Vector Prime this week.
Oh, that's great. I knew what the answer was, but I figured I'd ask just in case, just in case you had just enough energy to like hold a book up, which honestly, it doesn't sound like you did.
No, like I couldn't do anything. I couldn't play video games. Like one of the things I'm like, well, fuck, I'm sick. I might as well like sit at my computer and play a video game. I couldn't even do that. I couldn't fucking do anything. It was awful.
Yeah, it's bad when like, okay, here's a perfect opportunity. Like I can't do much of anything else. Let me just sit here with the computer in front of me or a controller in my hand and do this. And you
couldn't even do that.
You can't fucking do it.
Yeah.
So hey, listen. Good on you for having the intestinal fortitude to fucking, press through and get taping today. And hopefully this is a testament to everybody that you think that this is not going to affect you, and it can and it will.
Mm-hmm. The last thing I'll say about my whole COVID situation is when you're laying there and you literally think you're going to die, a lot of shit goes through your head. Like I said, the first thing that I did was I called my oldest in and I told him, like, look, dude, if I die from this thing, you need to be the man of the house. You need to take care of your brothers. You need to take care of some stuff around here. You need to step up.
You need to show Dave where the hard drives are.
Yeah. And
that was a thing.
Oh God, you totally threw off my train of thought. But then you start thinking about like, shit that you regret, you start reflecting on things. one of the things that I never imagined would have like come in my head at this moment, like a big regret that I had as I'm laying there thinking I'm fucking dying is, I wish I'd taken better care of the planet, like done what I could, and leave the planet in a better shape than than when I came into it. Not like I'll never be one of these fucking Al Gore AOCs. Like, if we don't stop all carbon emissions today, the world is going to burn down in 2 years. I'm not one of these fucking people, but I'm also not a person who thinks just fucking throw your trash anywhere. Don't fucking recycle. It doesn't matter. No, we as human beings create so much fucking garbage and so much waste that the rate that we're going, it's not sustainable. And, this made me start to think about that kind of stuff and thinking, fuck, what else can I do as an individual? Because I'm not going to rely on the fucking government to do anything, or any government to do anything, because they're not interested. As much as they say they are, as much as the fucking Democrats say that, oh, we're all about the environment and shit, at the end of the day, they really don't give a fuck. They just want your vote. But so, I mean, it's up to us as individuals to do shit like that. So I'm starting to think, like, what kind of shit can I do to make this fucking planet a little bit better? So that's some kind of things that went through my head. Some other stuff that went through my head is, I feel like I've wasted so much time doing dumb shit that I shouldn't be doing, and not enough time focusing on the things that I've always wanted to do. One thing that I've always wanted to do, I've always wanted to play piano. I've always loved music. We've kind of touched on this a little bit throughout the course of the podcast. I love music. I always have. Certain types of music. I'm open to a lot of different kinds of genres of music, and I've always wanted to play music, but I've never had the drive to commit myself to something. I've always wanted to learn to play guitar. I've always wanted to learn how to play piano more than anything. So I had this fucking keyboard that's been collecting dust for months, like a piano keyboard, not a fucking computer keyboard.
He's got one of those too, but the thing is,
indeed. So yeah, this thing's been sitting around collecting dust for a long time. I had these instructional videos that I went through like once and then never touched again. I busted all of this stuff out. I fucking wiped down the piano. I cleaned up the studio. When you come in here, whenever you come back to the studio, you're going to see it's a lot cleaner than before. And I set up this space where I'm playing the piano now. I'm doing this practicing stuff. I'm looking into actually getting lessons. I want to play piano, not because I have any aspirations to be in a band or anything. I just want to play music. I love just music in general. I think it's great, going all the way back to fucking Beethoven and Mozart to current like rock bands and everything else. So
yeah, yeah, you need Kathy might be able to make her piano teacher give her information, because she's got a friend of the family that comes and trains her.
Oh, if she's got somebody in mind, like that's looking for more work, then absolutely. Like because that's the thing. There's only so much you can get from like video lessons. Like I am learning stuff and I am picking some things up, but there's nothing can replace in-person instruction from somebody who actually knows.
The next logical progression after that is getting an actual, like, a no shit piano. Like, that was when Kathy decided to do this. Like, one of the big things was she wanted to have a piano. So, and believe it or not, pianos are really easy. Like, there are pianos everywhere. So it's just a matter of finding the right one. And then we paid to have it moved, and we had it moved into the house. We had somebody come in and tune it. And so that's like one of her things that she goes in and works and practices daily on it, just for the same reason. Like, it's not about being in a band or something, because it's something she wanted to do. Yeah. Absolutely. You need to do that shit.
Yeah. So, and I've started kind of coming up with this list of things that I've been wanting to do that, I've just wasted so much time and not, put any effort or put any focus on, that I'm doing that now. And with that comes a lot of cutting out things that I don't want to be doing anymore, or that I shouldn't be doing anymore. And, don't feel like I have to do certain things, and kind of going into things with a different attitude. A lot of this is going to kind of transition into our main topic that we're talking about today. But yeah, it's when you think you're going to die, your brain goes places, and you start to reprioritize a lot of things in your life, and you start to see like where you were wasting a lot of your life. And I'm looking to make some changes.
And it's a shame that it has to come to something like that to do it, honestly. But
yeah, but I mean, because it's life. Life has this way of keeping you level, and it has a way of what's the word that I'm looking for, of just like keeping you at a almost fucking just like deer in headlights for most of your life. Like, watch this mindless TV, play these mindless video games, just stay in a state where you're just kind of steady and you're just kind of moving along day to day, month to month, year to year.
it's the
And then the
Matrix.
next, yeah. And the next thing you know, half your life is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking to make a lot of changes when it comes to that. And again, that'll lend itself to what our main topic is here in a little bit. In the meantime, Dave, I've been talking an awful lot. This is not normal for the All Things Star Wars podcast.
It's not. Well,
Me talking as much as I'm talking.
I think that you talking right now is actually good exercise for your lungs.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I feel out of breath.
but it's probably, I'm not going to talk about that. But yeah, no, listen, you have the trump card for as far as like what happened during this week, because it is the most relevant thing that's going on in our world right now. Yeah. Honestly, that's not politically motivated. And my week involved basically watching what was happening with you and kind of going along with that. Right after we did the podcast, right? We talked about the tornado that had gone through, and like all this shit has happened like in the past month. What a fucking year, by the by. What a fucking year for all these things to happen, right?
This year has been so fucking just wild.
I know, and it's July.
Yeah.
So the roof over in my Florida room developed a leak. So Friday after work, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get on the roof. I'm gonna fucking do it. And so I get up on the roof and I start tearing the roof up, and it's a shit show. It's an absolute shit show. Like, I thought I was going to have to replace some wood, had to replace the whole fucking thing. 5 sheets of plywood. The size they used was wrong. So I had to put new sizing and new drips and this and that and rehang gutters and do the whole thing. 2.5 days of being out in the 90+ degree heat, and it damn near killed me. It was one of those things where this is not nearly as bad as what Jason had to go through, but I allow myself to get severely dehydrated. And even though I was really trying to keep up with it, you can't possibly do it. I applaud all those guys who are doing roofing and doing shit like that are still at our age. Holy fuck. Like, we are not the people to fucking be doing this shit. But
right.
They're to get up there and do it, and good on them. But so the biggest thing for me has been managing what's the after effect of that, like a week later. Now making sure that, because we were like basically my exposure to COVID and putting myself in a quarantine at that point, but making sure that I don't develop symptoms that are not related to like COVID, but at the same time remembering that I just did all this fucking shit on the roof.
Right.
So like there's some balance there that I have to work out. Thankfully, I've not had that experience, and it sucks that you had to go through it, but like you're a healthy dude, right? And it's probably what kept you from being in the hospital.
Yeah, probably.
And you get to that point where you're on a ventilator or something like that, just because you're exhausted to the point where you can't move air through your lungs anymore. If you weren't in good cardio shape and everything else, that where would you have been? I'd be sending you shit in the fucking hospital. So
yeah,
and then
that's possible.
Probably a copy of Vector Prime.
Make sure you read this before we record this.
Yeah. Hey, I know you're bedridden right now and like you're on a ventilator, but I'll make this little wire that you can hang the book in front of your face.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. Like it's really been just kind of, keeping up with what's going on with Jason, and I think he might get out a text a day when he was like really going through this.
Oh yeah.
And get just get an idea how he was doing, and thankfully getting you on the upswing, which is awesome. So
yeah,
let's talk about let's talk about the main topic.
Okay, so
it's kind of a big deal.
It is kind of a big deal, and it's funny too because the talk of what we're about to talk about is something that you and I have been talking about in the background for several weeks now, if not a month or longer. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling it's something that we both kind of felt internally that we didn't really want to or didn't know how to verbalize to each other, because it was one of those moments where you kind of came out and you're like, I kind of think we need to be, and I'm like, oh my God, me too. So,
let's, as opposed to 2 messages a day where he's healthy. No, before people start panicking, right? Jason's doing a good job, by the way, of dumping when he's coughing.
I'm trying.
Yeah, so he's doing a good job there. When we because the way Jason just said it, it was more like, oh, I'm thinking the same thing. We're talking about a pretty major change as far as the All Things Star Wars podcast goes.
Yes,
but not necessarily a change in what we're doing.
Right. So the thing that's not going to change is Dave and myself sitting down, hopefully soon across from each other here in the studio again, every single week, doing what we do, bullshitting on a podcast. The thing that's probably going to change, or that is going to change, is the content, the subjects. Because we've been doing this for 3 years, talking about nothing but Star Wars as our main topics, and I think we both just kind of, for the most part, and I think we both sort of at the same time kind of felt like this season of the Dave and Jason podcast feels like it's kind of coming to a close. Like we've done what we've wanted to do, we've done all we need to do as far as the focus on Star Wars. I mean, is that about right?
So, and it's not even about like, there's plenty of Star Wars content that's left out there, and
yes,
but at the same time, we have other stuff that we want to talk about. And I think really that's what it comes down to. And we don't have the bandwidth to produce a whole nother show.
Right.
Jason doesn't have the bandwidth to produce a whole nother show.
Right.
I could probably sit down and bullshit for another couple hours, but the reality is that we, like, the amount of you guys are out there being content creators. I forget. We did the whole thing where we were going to talk about Keith Lehman and the fucking Escape Pod guys. And
oh shit, yeah.
Fuck.
Blame COVID. It's all COVID's fault that we didn't.
I was supposed to type it out and I didn't. My fault. Yeah. So, but the content creators out there know that, like, you can't, like, it's really, really difficult to just kind of stroll into a fucking room and do what we do.
Sure.
So, knowing that to produce Star Wars content now is requiring a lot of extra research. Like, it's not coming to us in a way that, like, okay, let's react to what's going on in the news or upcoming movie or something like that. Right. So, like, as we're doing the Summer of Legends, as we're doing that, it's like, okay, it requires us to get back into a book and reading a book and potentially getting into subject matter that we didn't study before, which is great. Mm-hmm. But I think both of us, we want to talk about other stuff.
Yeah.
And we don't want to, like, at this for the sake of sacrificing, like, continuing to do a Star Wars podcast to just throw Star Wars at the back end of it, which honestly, it kind of feels like we're starting to get to that point.
Oh yeah. And there are several episodes, if you go through our 156 episodes, where it's like all we did was the Dave and Jason bullshit show, and then Star Wars for like 15 minutes at the end.
Yeah,
and that was it. And
I think that's. Look, I'm not going out on a limb, and Jason and I both feel this way. That, like, we think that here. By the way, Kathy says the piano's here when you're cleared.
I see that, and tell her I said thank you, and I will take her up on that.
we're here to do the Dave and Jason show, and I think that's why people watch us. And and the Star Wars bit has been a great way for us to, to
express ourselves,
to get out there and start developing a rapport into what this is. But Jason and I both, and you're right, it was a little over a month ago. We're like, we should, like, I think the conversation, the spark of this was Jason had said, let's do, or he said something about Gen X being the greatest generation. I was like, well, that's an interesting statement. And obviously there's comparisons there to the World War II generation, and those and everything else. But it kind of got us thinking about like,
oh no, no, we lost Dave just as he was starting to
this for what.
You started like seriously roboting for a second there, so you might have to start off with the Gen X part.
Oh, the Gen X part with I don't know. So no, Jason was talking about Gen X being the greatest generation, and this generation, our generation, which I think most of our listeners are out there. I know there's some outliers out there, some younger guys, some older guys, but I think in reality we're all pretty much right around the same Gen X area.
Yep.
And what we've seen, like where we've come from in technology for something as simple as like the fucking phone, right? Where we could stand there and legitimately have said that we used a rotary dial phone.
Yeah.
And to the point now where we have fucking supercomputers in our pockets.
And not only that, like not only did we grow up using the fucking rotary phones, our generation were the adopters of the smartphones. We were the ones who were kind of at the forefront of that. People our age, people older than us, they're still like, what do I do? I just want my flip phone. Can't we just have flip phones back? Where we've been at the forefront of all of this changing technology. And I think the phone is just the perfect example of that. I mean, we could go into so much other stuff when it comes to fucking TV. Like my first TV was a fucking black and white TV with the fucking rabbit ears, and now I've got like fucking 20 smart TVs throughout my fucking house, so
that to me that's where that perspective, I think, is what we want to talk about. We want to talk about our perspective of what's going on, not only with technology and shit like that, but what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And in a manner that it's going to, test boundaries that we haven't done before on the podcast. So,
and even when it comes to the ever so, weary topic of politics, I mean, we're in the middle of an election season, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think our generation has a unique perspective when it comes to the certain issues of the day, things that we don't. For a Star Wars podcast, we've like really strongly tried to avoid getting off on some of these tangents where if it's just the Dave and Jason show, fucking we'll talk about whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the bottom line. Big Lovin's like, no, don't do politics.
I'm not going to say we're going to focus on it, but I'm saying if it comes up, we're not going to fucking just stonewall it the way we have in the past.
Right. And you can have a conversation about what, as a Gen Xer, what is going on. Like even in the act of voting, think about the physical act of voting and what that has changed from and not in, over the years. These are all things. There's so much more to talk about from a perspective, and really that's what we're talking about. We're talking about from a Gen X point of view.
Yes,
and that's where that's the next step in the Dave and Jason show.
Yeah,
as we're gonna do a from a Gen X point of view podcast where everything's on the table, and it's really it comes down to what do we want to talk about that week. And we don't need to do a fucking. Star Wars has been really, really good to us, and will continue to be good to us because there's still going to be Star Wars news, and we're still nerds.
Yeah,
we're still into that shit. But to dedicate just an entire podcast just to Star Wars when we have all these other things we want to talk about, then that's what we want to do.
Right, and that's kind of this ties in with what I was saying earlier, where it's like I'm done wasting time. When I had my what I like to call my near-death experience, which might be an exaggeration now, but at the time I legitimately thought it was happening. Where I texted Dave, I'm like, look, dude, we've been talking about doing this Gen X podcast for a while. Let's just fucking rip the band-aid off of Star Wars and fucking just do this. Like, I really, really love all of our dedicated listeners that have been with us from the beginning or we have picked up over time that have been part of our dedicated listener base. I'd like to think that you're not all here for the Star Wars part. I'd like to think that you're all going to move over to from a Gen X point of view when we start this, probably in August timeframe. But I mean, we can't continue doing the Star Wars thing if we don't really feel it, you know? Like if we're just going through the motions just for the sake of continuing it because this is what the people expect of us, why are we even doing this? You know, let's do what we want and stop wasting fucking time. Let's stop wasting other people's times as well as our own times. You know, if we don't have the passion for it anymore, then fucking don't do it. And that's been kind of my like mental state lately. It's like, if I don't have the fucking passion for this, if this isn't important to me, stop fucking doing it.
Right. And hey, this is the we reap the benefit right now. Like, this is something it's been important to both of us. Like, this is a welcome refuge for us to be able to go and do the podcast and interact with all of you. And there's a lot of good stuff happening in the chat.
Yeah, and the Escape Pod is asking the question. The Escape Pod, by the way, go listen to the Escape Pod podcast. They're asking, are we going to be completely dropping the All Things Star Wars name and moving over to from a Gen X point of view? And the short answer to that is yes. We don't have a specific time. And in a perfect world, we would continue to do both, right? But Dave mentioned it earlier. We just don't have the bandwidth to do two shows. And one of the reasons why I'm more inclined to just completely, stop the All Things Star Wars is technically we're not even supposed to use that name. All Things Star Wars is technically trademarked, which is why we couldn't get official t-shirts made that say All Things Star Wars. Is why we had to abbreviate it to ATSW, because technically trademark names, things like that, we really shouldn't have done that from the beginning. Lesson learned.
Yeah. And in our efforts to brainstorm, putting something together, and hey, you guys, like, especially the ATSW presents guys for the Escape Pod, that's like been such a huge reward for us doing this. Like, something unexpected when I started doing this with Jason in 2017 was the fact that we were going to have like people that would listen to us enough to like want to come out and fucking see the show.
Yeah.
That type of shit is just unbelievable. And it's been the best part. Honestly, it's been the best part. And the fact that Star Wars kind of like started this thing, the guys at the Escape Pod, they got a great concept, and they even mentioned it earlier in the chat. Like, they don't do like they don't talk about Star Wars, but so much. And that's awesome. And content creating is such a great outlet right now, and it's such a huge thing to take advantage of. I think for us, there's a marketing element here. Let's be honest. Like, if we want to take, like, Dave and Jason want to take their fucking show to the next level, right? So we've got, corporate sponsorships that we're working in with the Podbelly stuff, and with El Yucateco, and people like you guys that have been Patreon supporters. Like, to get to that next level, sometimes you just need to get outside of that area of marketing and get into something a little bit bigger. And I think we got something. I think we got the skateboard. What's another thing that came in popularity while we were fucking kids? We jump on this thing and fucking ride it, and let's go. Let's do it. Let's bring more people into the Dave and Jason show. Let's get more people involved who are in the chat to interact with. Hey, Use and Abuse Pod is out there.
Yeah, and we're getting a lot of really nice comments in the chat too. By the way, Isaac and Scott and everybody else, they're saying that Star Wars brought them to us, but they're going to stay for Dave and Jason, and we really appreciate it. And that's that's the hope, because really week to week, the format of the show probably isn't going to change that much. It's just the last part of the episode where we talk about whatever our main topic is, just won't be specifically Star Wars related anymore.
Yeah, but there'll be a new RSS feed. There'll be new. New branding and shit like that. One thing that won't change besides the content, because the content's pretty much going to be there, just without the emphasis on Star Wars. Mm-hmm. It's still going to be a Dave and Jason show. However, I lost my train of thought. Oh, the cantina.
Sidebar Cantina.
The Sidebar Cantina is not changing.
Yes.
We are not. The Sidebar Cantina is still going to be the method, the modus operandi to interact with us on the show. If you're not going to be in the YouTube chat and you want to just daily bullshit, the Sidebar Cantina is still going to be there.
Yeah, and I'm sure if Gen X POV, if that gets big and we start getting a bunch of new members that are brought in from that, and they're gonna be like, why is it called the Sidebar Cantina? Then we'll have to be, well, we used to do a Star Wars podcast, blah blah blah, blah. But we're never getting rid of it.
Because, bitch, that's what we're gonna say.
Sure, because that's how we treat our listeners.
Obviously. Broco Fett's in for a pence, in for a pegging reference.
There will always be pegging references. Don't you worry about that. I learned what pegging was for the first time on the podcast. So I don't know if you remember. This was like our first fucking year. Somebody brought up pegging, and I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" And then you guys educated me, and now it's a running joke. So
yeah, Dave and Jason still, and the bottom line, all that. Dave and Jason show still going.
Yep.
Obviously, we're still Star Wars nerds, so we're still gonna. If something jumps out at us, we're going to do that. We know. Obviously, we're subject matter experts when it comes to fucking Star Wars.
Yeah, and now
everyone wants to challenge that. Fight me.
I know a lot of people freaked out as soon as we said politics. Everybody in the chat is like, no, don't talk about politics. It's first of all, if we do talk about politics, it's not going to be that often. And B, we're not these fucking batshit crazy people on the internet or on social media where it's like, it's this way or the highway. I have only one train of thought and I will never think another way. No, we're Gen X. We have a very different opinion on politics. We are not fucking extremes one way or the other. We're actually open to having conversations and open to potentially having our minds changed. So that's where we are on politics. So don't freak the fuck out. Calm down. Right. Trust me, I don't like getting into the dredges of political conversations as much as anybody. But if we have something to say about it, I want that freedom to be able to say it.
Indeed.
So I'm being informed.
Be not afraid.
Yeah, I'm being informed that my dinner is going to be ready in less than 10 minutes. So we need to wrap this up.
Very good.
You mentioned our Patreon. The plan right now is to shut down the All Things Star Wars Patreon at the end of July. So, if you were only here for the Star Wars content and you've been a Patreon supporter of ours and you don't want to continue any farther, totally understand. That's well within your rights. We thank you for your support up to this point. Yes. We will make a Gen X point of view Patreon. We'll give you those details when that comes out, and expect this transition to happen from All Things Star Wars to from a Gen X point of view sometime, like Dave mentioned, early August, potentially first week of August, as we put the final few episodes on All Things Star Wars. We finish up the Summer of Legends. And, we just, we move forward with the next step.
Yep. But this is the proverbial, you have to break the ice. Like before you make a change, it's all that change theory, right? We studied at the fucking NCO Academy, where it's like, all right, you have to break the ice, and then you have to start to facilitate change, stuff like that. Yeah, this is happening. This is what we're going to be doing, and it's going to be great. Honestly, it's going to be. I'm so looking forward to it. Jason and I got excited about this, like we got excited when we said, "Hey, let's do a Star Wars podcast."
Yeah,
and we managed to do that for 3 fucking years, and I like the idea that we're graduating from just being a Star Wars podcast to something a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Yep,
So
I'm excited, and I think this can only go up from here.
yeah, for ATSW presents the Escape Pod. It means the badging on the back wall of our studio.
Trust me, we've still got T-shirts that we haven't given away that say all things Star Wars on them and everything else. So
I just had a bunch of brand new fucking business cards made too.
And you know what? That's the thing. How much are we really out? You got it. You got to do it. Like,
nope.
At the end of the day, it's only a few bucks. It's only branding that can easily be fixed. I apologize to the Escape Pod guys. We probably should have told you about this before today. Hey,
look,
what can you do? Jason's
near-death experience because of the COVID virus, and we've been planning this, and it's something we've been. It's been on a whim. This is something that has been in the works, and now we just need we need to go into execution phase, and that's what we're doing today. We're moving into execution phase, so it's going to be awesome.
Yep. And Bronco Fett mentioned that he's not going to be able to join us in the chat for a while. He's having government mandated unemployment, which we'll have to get some more details on that later. But until then, next week we'll be back with some Star Wars content. Don't know what at this point. We should still finish.
I'm going to force Jason to fucking read Vector Prime. Motherfucker, if you made me read this goddamn book and have to relive the entirety of Chewbacca dying and everything else, and you're not gonna have to suffer through that too.
No, I'm going to. And again, I've read this before. I read it when it first came out years ago. But yes, I will read it. We will talk about it, and we'll kind of recap the whole Vong series, the New Jedi Order, and all that stuff. Some fucking shit went down.
Yeah,
there's still a lot of stuff to get into for as much time as we have. But in the meantime, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for all of the kind words everybody's been sending out over the last few days, because I did post in the Sidebar Cantina several days ago about my diagnosis and everything else. So thanks to everybody who's reached out.
That was the first place he actually put anything publicly about.
Yeah.
I know I had mentioned in there about Jason being sick. Didn't really get into any details, so Jason put it out there. But before we move on too far, I just want to one last foot stomp. I hate that. Like, we had all this other news, and Jason gets COVID, and all this other all this really important life stuff. Let's not lose the fact that we have El Yucateco standing here with us, as our first sponsor, non-Patreon supported sponsor. Jason enjoys it on his eggs. I enjoy it in some salsa. I'm going to have to put it in. I'm going to have to get some, put it in my eggs.
It's good shit.
It is in fact good shit. #1 habanero sauce in the U.S. Go to shopelucateco.com. Tell them that the All Things Star Wars podcast sent you, and soon the Gen X Point of View podcast sent you.
That's right. All right. And thanks everybody who's been with us this whole time. All of our previous supporters, starting from the very beginning of All Things Star Wars, and everybody who's been listening to us up to this point. Again, we're doing this for you guys. We love this following that we have gotten, and all of you who have been regulars, you guys are fucking awesome. And I'm really glad to hear that most of you who are talking to us in the chat right now are planning on sticking with us. So keep an ear open for that. We will give more specific details over the next coming weeks as to when this transition is going to happen, where you can listen to the new show and all of that. But until that time comes, everybody else and Dave, may the Force be with you. I said, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you. It completely cut out. Okay, now what do I click?